Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Hope everybody is doing well today. Make sure you're subscribed to all three channels, and I do encourage you, go if you're curious about certain topics, just click the little search. This is how you do it. And you might, I don't know, touch in Draco and see what comes up. I don't know. I haven't done this particular one. Oh, there we go. Yeah, the powers that be. Archons, Anunnaki, Reptilians, Draco, Yaldabaoth, Wraiths. Yes, see? Shocking Bible verses. There you go. All you gotta do is use that little search right there and uncover some of the things that the controllers don't want you seeing. And same thing for all three channels, EEARTS and also Heart's Home. So let me start over here, just because one of our family members was saying, did you see Dutch? Holy crap. So we were just watching what they were talking about, and then we're going to talk about some things that are happening. So his latest post, something strange going on with the weather, gravity waves, undulating storms. You know, he's talking about certain areas and things that look abnormal, and just saying that it looks basically like there's some technology in play. Technology of a very, very advanced type. We understand China and the U.S., and Russia too, but China and U.S. immediately come to mind, have talked about controlling the weather warfare, and obviously there's a war underway now, and of course the bigger war on humanity. So it should not be surprising. Many people will say, yeah, I could understand that maybe we're a little bit more advanced than what they let us know. The technology in play is way more advanced than what is commonly allowed to be spoken of out in the open. But the reality is, yeah, HAARP, CERN, we understand that those things could be playing a big part in all the weather phenomena. And many other things too. Earthquakes, volcanic activity, consciousness, you just name it. And there's so much more that we don't fully understand. Cindy was saying, as we're listening to Dutch Funnies, mentioning all these places where we happen to live, happen to spend a lot of time at. And he was talking about the very large array, which, we know this very well. We did video right standing there in front of the very large array, which is in the area of Daddle in New Mexico, out there in the middle of nowhere, literally. We know because we lived over there. Yeah. So we're very familiar with that area. And yeah, there's what they call the very large array that is doing something that they don't, they're not going to let us know exactly what it's being used for, but absolutely. So what Dutch is kind of hinting at is, could something like that be used to control the weather? Could it trigger huge earthquakes? Maybe is there technology that could literally trigger crustal displacement event, pole shift? Wouldn't surprise me at all. In fact, this is what we've been kind of getting the whole time. Then he was also looking at an area over here on the border, Shreveport, Louisiana's radar here east of Dallas. And of course, that's, not too far from where we are, just a little bit south. But it's fascinating that he was picking up the weather here all abruptly, like hit a stone wall and change. Well, going through this area, Cindy's picked up what she calls some sort of artificial intelligence guardian that's over what is known as Barksdale Air Force Base, where there's a lot of nuclear bombers. So, it could be that there's something going on at Barksdale, which is maybe it's counteracting, things that are being done, perhaps from the fine dining ware country, or perhaps, it's being worked in concert.
I know Mike always has better ways of explaining it than I do, but all I can do is tell you the information that I'm given and translate it the best as I can. But I know in this sense, going to sound contradictory, but it is what it is. And I call it an AI angel. There's something there protecting that area that is not of a energetic biological form, but it is doing its job. And it was just really curious to see, because these are all places that we have been put our feet to and have been on the ground and picked up very curious energies. And it's just kind of weird, you know, watching this place, these are the places that we've been. So I don't know what's going on, but a lot of our regular family members that we talk to, you know, on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, they're all kind of having a little bit of a difficult time energetically and physically too. So there's something amiss, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's just interesting to pick up on all that. Meanwhile, here you see they're calling it a 6.5. The USGS calls it a 6.2. It's a quake that struck off the coast of Honshu. No tsunami warning was issued. Now, this one is going to be right here. And we could zoom in. And you see we have a couple of aftershocks. So here's the original one. USGS 6.2. Others calling it 6.5. 4.6. That's the most recent. 5.6. And 5.9. Also a little bit more to the north here. There it is. 5.9. Now, you know, we never want to give times and, you know, specific predictions because timelines are always changeable. But I do feel very confident that it's in the plans of the controllers. Now, whether they're going to be able to manifest that or not, we'll have to see. If we wake up enough people, perhaps not. But I do think it's in their plans and intention to unleash the big Cascadian quake and also the big one with the San Andreas before, I would say, summer of next year. And this, of course, could lead to the New Madrid going off as well. So, you know, I do feel that these things are being, well, they're trying to trigger them with the technology. And Cindy did feel the technology in place, you know, before we had that big, huge Tonga eruption, which again exceeded all expectations. There's a lot of volcanic activity. We are going to be, in general, cooling off, you know, and you know that's their trajectory. Even though they're going to be selling us on global warming, as we know, you know, the science is all about sales. It's just that simple. So one person was killed, 13 others injured following this strong quake that struck central portions of Japan on Friday afternoon. And again, 6.5 by the Japanese Meteorological Agency scale, and then 6.3 and 6.2 by other sources. So we'll keep an eye out. We send prayers to everybody involved in that. You know, floods everywhere you look. It seems like there's extremes. This is in Rwanda, East Africa. Hundreds killed after flash floods. You can see washing away villages, certainly washing away crops. So, you know, there's been quite a bit of activity now coming through with the sun, as well as we could look back 2 days. You see quite a few M-class going on, and that's Rama, by the way.
Sorry.
He's eaten the femur of the tax collector. I'm just kidding, guys. Just kidding.
Yeah.
And, you know, we could see the activity is definitely picking up. KP, it has not picked up. For the most part, it's at 2 or 1. So, you know, again, we do expect there will be increased activity, which always will lead to increased quake activity, volcanic activity, and then sensitivity issues for those of us that are a little bit more energetically sensitive. So you have intense explosive activity, multiple pyroclastic flows trigger evacuations of over 1,000 people around Fuego in Guatemala. You know, again, the closer you get to the equator, the more powerful the effects will be on cooling the planet off, and also obviously the higher the eruptions. Fuego is one of the busier ones in more recent times. West Virginia witnesses unprecedented snowfall in May, breaking a century-old record. 15.9 inches of snow in 2 days. Exceptional for May. And it's not just there, too, as we see 6 straight cold months for Cheyenne. Historic snow across the lakes of Michigan, West Virginia, Nome's coldest April in a lifetime. Heavy May snow clips India, cool UK, record cool Latvia, and a reverse polarity sunspot. Yeah, as you know, the sun goes through its 11-year cycle, and it's ever changing. That's the nature of everything, really, when you get down to it, is ever changing. And yet there's these cycles where we could kind of get a clue of what's going to happen through the cycles.
Right. That's the beauty of it, is there are cycles and there are seasons. So even though nothing is ever the same, there's always some kind of thing we can utilize to say, okay, well, we can say, okay, well, it's going to be a little bit like this, or it's going to be a little bit like that, thanks to those cycles and seasons.
So the weather has been devastating to the calves being born, and this is in southeast Oregon, and it's part of the bigger picture. It seems like everything out there seems to have an effect on the food supply. British General Rupert Jones, we have ammunition for only 22 hours of a great war. In other words, if there was a world war declared and we found ourselves NATO against the BRICS nations, we got ammunition for 22 hours now. And this is part of that whole purpose of the Ukrainian situation. And perhaps they'll again trigger the same thing out in Taiwan to just kind of bankrupt the power of the Western nations and NATO. As you know, they're basically doing all they can to shift that new global power to the BRICS nations and the fine dining ware country. China has lost 40 million workers since the pandemic. And, again, China had that one baby policy per couple. And now what you have is an aging population. And also we've had, obviously, a decline in birth rates globally pretty much. There's only a couple countries bucking that trend in Africa, and that's about it. Especially the more industrialized nations, exposure to plastics and toxins, a lot of estrogens being developed, a lot of cases of cancer, a lot less fertility, a lot less sperm out there. I mean, it all rolls together to a population that's going to be rapidly shrinking, even in China. India is actually past China as far as the most populous nation. And also the fact that also means that it's a aging population, as you're not having as many kids being born, and so the demographic is worsening, and there's less people out there in the workforce. And it was interesting too, just the way they word this too. Productivity workforce, it takes 18 years to grow a worker. I thought that was a very telling statement. It takes 18 years to grow a worker. Reminds me of like Star Wars with the clones. And how long does it take you to do? Oh, we accelerate the aging process and it'll be ready for you in 5 or 6 years. Yeah. When you look to sci-fi, I think you're getting a lot more of the reality than most people realize.
I know, and that's a really scary thought once you come to that conclusion and you've seen enough things that just don't make any sense, and you start looking at the entertainment industry and the movies that are just supposedly this information is for entertainment purposes only. No, it's for the purpose of them getting off the karmic wheel, because then they're telling us the truth. It's up to you if you choose to believe it or not.
Absolutely. So we have an unidentified drone that tried to attack an Aeroflot Airbus A320 during landing at Sheremetyevo Airport in Moscow. Again, there's so much potential right now for some sort of event that just, it's a domino effect. And all the dominoes will go crashing down before we know it. We're right in the middle of that open WW3. And here you have a 2-mile-long vehicle encampment made of people living in RVs, trucks, and trailers along Highway 101 north of San Fran, as low-income people are pushed out of the housing market. It's just insanity what's happened to the world. Californication, right? Remember that song, Californication? Everybody wanting to go and land of sunshine, and it's all basically deteriorated into just a horrible living situation for so many people, and it's not just California too, as we've shared. We were just talking to Dr. Renee. Hey, Renee.
Hey, Renee.
She says she doesn't even go into Austin anymore because it's just like one huge homeless encampment.
Yeah, and that's really so unfortunate. And look at this. These folks really, I guess they don't have anywhere to go. And sometimes in some cases, once you get out here, well, if your home breaks down, you can't even get out of there and to try something different. But California has always been so expensive, even for probably just a little studio apartment. I would imagine it's going to run anywhere between minimum $800 and probably up to $2,000 just for a little studio. And that's probably upstairs. And it's still so ridiculous. How could you live in something like that plus eat? I mean, come on. It's just goofy.
I think 800, it's somebody's closet.
Yeah, well, that's true. People, not kidding. I have heard of situations like that. People do rent out their closets for other people to sleep in. And sometimes, in most of those cases, they're darn happy to have a place to sleep. And life shouldn't be that way.
No, absolutely. It most definitely shouldn't. This is, the big reveal as the wedge is being driven right down in the middle between the haves and the have-nots. So Rochelle Walensky resigns, CDC director. She says, just a pandemic transition. No more pandemic. You guys don't need me. I'm going to head off to Jamaica or Bermuda or somewhere. I'm just going to try to disappear before the villagers come. Is that smoke?
I know, right?
I think that's more likely. And then take a 360 look inside Westminster Abbey, where King Charles III will be coronated. Again, do you think this was made when they say it was made, how they were made, and for what purposes it was made? When you look at the architecture of the world, you gotta start questioning things. We should question things, because the reality is, why are churches constructed such that they have these spires that reach to the sky? Are they aspiring to be closer to God?
So this is just something that I've kind of kept inside for a long time, but I think we've talked about it for a while. But every time I walk or drive by one of those churches with those, it's an antenna. It's not, something pretty for decoration. No, this is energy where a lot of beings group, they come together. They create a lot of energy, and guess what? That energy goes up and through that antenna up to their God, whoever they think that they are worshiping. It goes to that being.
Well, so to clarify, ultimately it goes to AI, as you were saying.
Right. It's just people don't understand what they're really doing, and that's sad. It does frustrate me that so many people they have such good hearts. And I have heard people say, well, humanity is just, they're a negative race. They're a warring race. But that's not the case. I've been getting different channeled information in just today that I've been wanting to go and channel and get the rest out. That's not true. We are very good in our hearts and in our beings, and we want to do the right thing. If we didn't, then why are all these people following these rules? Because they believe they're going to do something good for someone. They think they're doing the right thing. They feel they're being safe, and it's just sad that we're pitted against each other, because those who have had the time, and I'm going to say that, who've had the time to wake up, because if you're on the wheel, on the hamster wheel, you don't have time to sit down and study and understand where all this information is coming from. You have time to be spoon fed. You have time to go home, eat, get some rest, wake up, shower, and do it again the next day. And you might get Saturday and Sunday off. And which one of those days are you going to choose to rest, because you've been working the rest of the time? So where do most people have the time to study and understand the truth? The answer is they don't, and they're easily manipulated, and it's not right. And I think we can really, with our heart chakras, open up a lot more love and understanding to people, and just know that they want to do the right thing. They absolutely want to do the right thing, just like we do. We just simply have to come together, and there's going to be a point, and I do think that point is now-ish, and it has been, where we can start to blend together carefully, as long as we're very forgiving and very kind and very understanding. And the best thing that we can do for other people is really work on yourself. I can't really help anyone else out there unless I'm working on myself, and Mike is the same way. We spend a lot of time working on our energy, so that when we do go to do healing work on someone else, it's very effective. But that's how we get there, is working on ourselves. And if everyone were to take on that idea to work on themselves, this place would, it might sound a little bit selfish to just say, well, I'm going to work on myself, but no, that's the way to actually expand yourself for other people.
Absolutely. So take a look at this. On the right, you see piano notes in different octaves. And again, it's fascinating to see the as above, so below. We've talked before, maybe not enough, about sound, and light and sound give us the manifestation of everything that we see. And you might be familiar with Dr. Emoto's experiments on water. Look at the windows in some of these churches and all, and you can see that there's corresponding references there to sound. So again, these are being used to convey sound, again, upwards to the heavens. They understand the big picture way better than most humans have a clue, because again, those that put all this system into place are not Homo sapiens. No, you're living in much more of a sci-fi movie than you would realize. Yes, the guidance definitely comes from above, and whether we're talking directly from beings that come from other places, or beings of a different frequency, such as the lower astral realm and 4D, they are beings that are guiding the human controllers of the world. The human controllers are just middle management, as we were saying. They give us the biggest part of our philosophy, our science, and our religions. They hijack what is true and distort to use the energy for themselves. So again, they take mankind's energy that mankind's giving off in places like this, and they harness it, and they send it to themselves and to their constructs, as you look here. Some symbolism, but it's more than symbolism. This is part of the control matrix. And, for those that have done any sort of real serious study into the Bible, and recognize there's different names used to denote the Abrahamic God, there's a change. Originally Elohim in the plural is the very first reference that we have, again. And it even says, come, let us. That's a plural. That's definitely a plural. And, you have El was a Canaanite storm god. And then you have Yahweh. Again, there's different writing segments of the Bible that are attributed to the Yahwist texts, the Elohist texts, and the Deuteronomist texts, or the priestly class. And again, in Hebrew, you didn't actually write the vowels out as well, so the translation was a very fluid thing. And yeah, again, where some true inspiration was hidden and distorted, it was done in a very purposeful way to hijack and utilize, once again, humanity as an energy resource.
Mm-hmm. And there is a time when these energies are put together. These buildings and these things, these tools can be used for good. They can be used for healing. The sound resonance that comes in can actually heal, and it can cure, and it can help us live our best lives. But then there comes a time, and a darker time, when they're utilized by other beings, and we're just taught what those other beings want us to know. But look at these three here. They're just having a nice conversation. And this guy wants to come up and he wants to try to play and make friends too.
Yeah, he's kind of like, you two look like you're about to start a fight. Let's go have fun together. You could play with me. I'll play with you. Come on, let's play. This is how we do it. And the one says, get out of here, kid.
Yeah, I know. The poor baby. He just wants to come and play. Super sweet, and those kitties aren't having it. And then we have two beings playing together, both coming from the same consciousness, both having a blast, having so much fun with one another. And this is how our energy exchanges should be. They should be fun, they should be entertaining, and they should be carefree and just beautiful.
Absolutely. You know, again, some of our best friends obviously don't have to be Homo sapiens. They could certainly be anything, any other form of consciousness, because you know, ultimately, consciousness just has different experiences from a different viewpoint of a different vehicle.
I know. And sometimes the best forms of humanity are not learned through other humans.
Absolutely. So, guys, thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. Do check out EvolutionaryEnergyArts.com. And if you need to make an appointment for energy work, for astrology charts, again, we do Vedic astrology. Reach out at evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.